Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Transformational Tuesdays with Tasha. I am super excited for you to be here, but before I get started, let me wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day. I hope that this day that you take some time just to focus on love. Love for yourself, love for others, and love for the season of life that you're in. Today, we're going to continue in our conversations around atomic habits. And we're going to be talking about how to make your old habits obvious so that you can change them. If you missed any of our sessions, you can actually go to my website, maximizedgrowthllc.com, and you can catch up with us. This is episode 5 of our book study around atomic habits. And if you have been enjoying this, no matter what platform you're watching, I would love for you right now to like or subscribe and share this out. You know what they say, sharing is caring. And so we're on a journey of building or rebuilding our lives one habit at a time. And so last week, I introduced the first phase of how do we break old habits and how do we build new habits. And one of the first things that it talked about in this chapter is make it obvious. And so, with making it obvious, one of the things that he talked about here is that's actually one of the challenges when it comes to us changing our habits is sometimes we go into avoidance mode and we think if we don't focus on it, it'll go away, or if we don't focus on it, it won't be a big deal. Well, James Clear in this book actually challenged our mindset with that. And he says, if you want to create good habits, if you want to break old habits, you have to make it obvious. And he says here, there's something powerful about awareness. In my leadership trainings with my company Maximize Growth LLC, that's one of the things that I'm always talking about is the power of self-awareness. It's the equivalent of if you got a new car and let's say that car, the color of your car, the make of your car, you got it. And now all of a sudden you're starting to see that car everywhere. Anybody know what I'm talking about? That's the same way with habits. Once we expose ourselves and make our habits aware, then what's easier is for us to do something about it. But if we're going into avoidance mode, then chances are all we're doing is hiding. All we're doing is refueling our limitations. So that's what he talks about here is make it obvious. And he said when we hide them, what we're really doing also is we're reinforcing the consequences of bad habits. That's how they sneak up on us. And we get to a place where we say, I don't know how I ended up here. It's because we have been in hiding and we haven't been willing to expose ourselves. And he talks about in this chapter a system called pointing and calling. And it's a safety system that has been used in the past for train systems, for organizations. And he says this system, it's a safety system that helps us raise our level of awareness. He says what happens is when we raise our level of awareness, we're identifying the details surrounding that habit. We're pointing at it and we're calling it out loud. Again, once we are aware, we can't pretend like we don't know anymore. And especially if we reach outside of ourselves and get accountability and ask for help, oh yeah, that's a surefire way. That's the safety system to help reinforce us creating new habits. Another simple exercise that he talks about in this chapter in learning how to make it obvious, he said, create a habit scorecard. Now, sometimes we think this can be like really oversimplified, but there's something very powerful about this. One of the things that I love to do is I have this journal. In fact, look, it says keep life simple. I have a journal, and every day in my journal, I'm doing a brain dump. I'm doing a brain dump of my life task, my business task, my reminders, things that I need to hone in on. And here's the thing, I don't have to do everything that I put on this list all in one day. But again, it's something about getting it out of my head and getting it out of my heart that makes it obvious for me. So Mr. Clear said, if you want to try a system, if you've never done this before, he said, here's something that you can do. He said, make a list of all of your daily habits. You know, if you don't know where to start, this is a great place to start right here with Make It Obvious. He says, make a list of your daily habits. Literally, it could be as simple as waking up, turning off the alarm, checking my phone, going to the bathroom, weighing myself, taking a shower, brushing my teeth, flossing my teeth, putting on deodorant. And I know some of y'all are like, really? Really? Like, I already know how to do that. Exactly. Sometimes the reason why we create these habits is subconsciously we're already doing them. But here's the thing, if we evaluate everything that we're doing, that helps us to be able to decipher, is this a good habit? Is this a bad habit? So, again, if you don't know where to start with changing your system, just start documenting everything. Because with this habit scorecard, once you have written everything out, let's say you're documenting your day, you've written everything out, then you can go back and actually score each thing that you're doing. And he uses a system in 3 steps. He has, if it's a good habit, write a plus sign next to that thing. If it's a bad habit, write a minus sign. And if it's a neutral habit, can go either way. He said you can write an equal sign. And he says, with enough practice with this system, with this habit scorecard, with enough practice, what you're doing is you're actually tricking your brain. And I wouldn't say tricking, maybe training your brain to pick up on cues that will predict certain outcomes without you consciously having to think about it. And then what it will also do, it will alert you to all of the spaces where you have those minus signs. It will alert you of the bad habit. Now you're making it obvious. You are making it conscious. You are raising your awareness. Do y'all see how powerful that can be? Because think about it. How many times have you just done something out of habit and you're frustrated at yourself? You're judging yourself. You're tired of even thinking about it, or because I mean, you're not really thinking, you're doing. But at the same time, it's frustrating for you. It's because we haven't made it obvious, right? And so that's one thing that we can do is document what we're doing and score it. And then he says we have to learn how to start asking ourselves questions. Again, the power of self-awareness. He said we have to learn how to start asking ourselves questions. So you can look at this list and you can say, does this behavior actually help me to become the type of person that I want to be? Because remember, in previous conversations around atomic habits, we talked about it's about our identity, and we have to decide the person that we want to be. I want to be a person of character. I want to be a person of integrity. I want to be someone who's faithful. I want to be someone who's honest. I want to be someone that people can trust, right? Those are just examples. So if you look at your list of habits, you have to ask yourself, especially where you have a minus sign, does this behavior, if we're honest, this does require honesty. Does this behavior help me to become the person that I want to be? Here's a second question. Does this habit actually cast a vote for or against my desired identity? This is where you get real. You know, I've always said we can hide from most of the people some of the time, but when we do something like this and expose ourselves to ourselves, guess what? It's really hard to go back into hiding, right? It's really hard to go back into hiding and act like we don't know when we have looked ourselves in the mirror. And that's the power of atomic habits, y'all. Again, this is so much bigger than just creating goals. It is so much bigger than, and when I say creating goals only. This is about becoming the person that we've been destined to be all along. And I love this whole section on make it obvious. Tonight, we're just talking about one of the chapters. This section, we're going to be talking about for a few weeks now about make it obvious. And he says here, habits that reinforce your desired identity are usually good. So when we're asking the right questions, we can actually reinforce the good habits that we're doing. But habits that conflict with our desired identity, they're usually bad. And then once we become aware of it, then we start taking the steps. Rome wasn't built in a day, and you're not going to be able to break all your bad habits in a day or overnight. It's not going to be something a lot of times that's going to be just like that. Some of this requires a process, y'all. The first step in the process is honesty. The first step is getting real with ourselves, right? And so once we can become real with ourselves, then we can start looking for, okay, what is the next step? It's a day by day journey. This is a process. I love here he says, once our habits become automatic, we stop paying attention to what we are doing, which is why we have to raise our level of awareness, because we want to make sure that those things that we're subconsciously doing, they are supporting the identity that we desire, right? And he says this process of behavior always starts with awareness. I know I sound like a broken record, but y'all, we cannot escape that. Self awareness is powerful. It is powerful. And so is honesty. And I love that he says here, it is a process. So once we do this, we document this, our steps, we implement this system, and you do it at your level, where start where you are. But once we start documenting our steps to create these good habits and break our bad habits, what he says here is the goal is just to simply notice. The goal is simply just to raise your awareness. Once you do that, you're able to observe your thoughts, your actions without judgment or internal criticism. And here's the thing. We also don't want to get into this place where we're blaming ourselves or beating ourselves up. We also don't want to get cocky and be praising ourselves overly for successes. We want to be real in this process, because here's the thing. Sometimes, let me start backwards. Sometimes, if we're overly cocky with our success, that sometimes can be a hindrance too, because then what happens is we stop striving. We stop aiming for the levels that we should be aiming for. Now, let me pause and say this. Celebrate yourself on the journey. Celebrate your progresses. Celebrate your growth on the journey. Just don't get stuck in the celebration in the moment. Understand there's levels to this. I hope that makes sense. But then at the same time, we don't want to go into this blame, this judgment, this attack mode on ourselves. If anything, we have some options here. So there's one option to say, you know what? I know better now. I'm going to do better. And we start beginning the journey and redirecting our course and going in the right direction. There's going to be some habits though. It's going to take more than you. It's going to require accountability. And that's not a bad thing, y'all. That's not a bad thing. I speak about this a lot in my leadership development trainings, that every person needs people that can see the real them at all times, without judgment, without criticism. But sometimes we just need people to see us, and sometimes see through us, to be able to ask us the right questions, to be the kind of people who are not afraid to challenge us, to be the kind of people who can be cheering for us in 1 minute and saying, hey, that's not you in the next, right? And so that's the power of being aware, is because then you can know, okay, this I can do, or nope, this over here, I'm going to need some help. And by raising our awareness, that helps us to have greater options to become the people that we're called to become. And that's what's more important. It's not about the destination, it's about the process. I hope that this helped you today. This book has been so amazing, y'all, and it's helping me to become real. It's helping me to become real. And so, this first section that we're on right now, make it obvious, this can help you whether you're trying to create a good habit or you're trying to break a bad, negative, or toxic habit. If you're just tuning in, again, my name is Tasha Scott. I'm the owner of Maximize Growth LLC, and I'm grateful to you for being on this journey with me. If this helped you, again, please like and share and subscribe. We are on YouTube, we are on LinkedIn, we are on Facebook. Thank you for being part of this journey as we dig deep into atomic habits. We'll be back next week and we're going to talk more about this, make it obvious, and we're going to peel back another layer of this. But thank you so much. And again, happy Valentine's Day to you. I'm so excited that you took the time out to watch this. If you're watching the replay, thank you. And as always, let me know in the chat how this is helping you. And let's grow together.